Only one spot remaining up for grabs in the quarterfinal of the 2023 Concacaf Gold Cup. Panama's already through. Just a question of first place or second place. El Salvador has to fight for their Gold Cup lives tonight in front of a very excited crowd here at Shell Energy Stadium in Houston, Texas. Happy to have you along this evening. I'm Joe Malfa. This is the 31st meeting all time between Panama and El Salvador, and it is their second meeting in Gold Cup play. This Panamanian side excelled in the first two group matches, a pair of 2-1 victories over Martinique and Costa Rica. El Salvador fell by a 2-1 scoreline against Martinique before drawing Costa Rica. And as you see there, it's going to be a dramatic finish to Group C. As things stand, El Salvador first and foremost needs to win tonight. Then beyond that, we can get into the scenarios of what happens if Martinique wins, what happens if Costa Rica wins, and what happens if those two nations draw. It's pretty straightforward. First things first again, El Salvador has to win tonight to stay alive. Beyond that, they need Martinique to either draw against Costa Rica or lose. A Martinique win would mean Martinique goes through. A draw in that match would mean it comes down to goal differential between El Salvador and Martinique. A win for Costa Rica and a win for El Salvador means it comes down to goal differential between Costa Rica and El Salvador. And if you didn't catch all that, don't worry. Throughout the night, I'll continue to bring it back up and walk you through it as the night unfolds. But first things first, more than anything else, El Salvador needs to win to go through. Meanwhile, Panama sits in a great spot with 6 points already. They're likely the top team in this group. However, they can fall to the 2 spot. If Panama loses this game and Martinique wins, it would come down to goal difference and Panama could fall to second. What's at stake? The winners of this group get Qatar on Saturday in the quarterfinal. Whoever comes in second in this group gets Mexico on Saturday in Arlington as the teams make their way into the tunnel. Only previous meeting in Gold Cup play came in 2011 in the quarterfinal, 1-1 through 90 minutes. Panama won 5-4 on PKs. They played twice in this most recent octagonal of World Cup qualifying. El Salvador won at home 1-0. Panama won at home 2-1. Those matches were a month apart, and these nations have not met since then, nearly 2 full years later. Historically, in the previous 30 meetings, Panama leads the series 15-8 with 7 draws. El Salvador dominated the early history of this rivalry. However, in the 15 matches that they have played, in the 17 matches they have played over the last 19 years, Panama with 11 wins and just 2 losses. So since 2004, it has been a one-sided rivalry in Panama's favor with 11 wins, 2 losses, and 4 draws. So much at stake tonight. Panama ranked 57th in the world, ranked 5th in CONCACAF. El Salvador 76th in the world, 11th in CONCACAF. It's a 10th Gold Cup in a row for Panama, a 9th Gold Cup in a row for El Salvador. El Salvador made the quarterfinals last time. Panama did not. Already Panama is through. El Salvador has a long way to get there. Players taking the field. Anthems, lineups, and kick coming up next from Houston. For an El Salvador side that needs the victory and some help to go through to the quarterfinal, they have plenty of support at this arena in Houston. The fourth most populous city in the U.S. for Salvadoran population, and making it known here in the venue. We'll meet the starting 11 for Panama first. They have rotated heavily here. Among their 11, faces who have not yet started in this tournament, faces who have come off the bench a couple of times, if that. So we'll see how things look for Panama, clearly with an eye toward the quarterfinal, feeling relatively comfortable. It appears that they will go through as the winners of this group, rotating all but just a couple in this 11. They'll look to Gondola and Waterman to supply the attack up top. Referee crew is led by Walter Lopez of Guatemala. Keitzel Corrales, Raimundo Feliz are your assistant referees, with Rion Radix as the fourth official. Crowd continues to voice the support of El Salvador. Look at all the blue in these stands. There are your referees, captains meeting for the coin toss, exchanging the banners. Harold Cummings, the captain for Panama. Mario Gonzalez, the captain for El Salvador. Take a look at the starting 11 now for El Salvador. Mario Gonzalez in goal, and it's an 11 that is just about on par for what we've seen in the first two matches. A backline anchored by Cabalceta with Brian Tamacas on the right side. In the midfield, they will look to Roldan to supply the attack down the left flank. Jairo Enriquez will freelance in the middle of that midfield, hoping to create opportunities for these three up front. Brian Gill has been the most dangerous attacker for this Salvadoran side, but their lone goal came from a penalty by Tamacas. They have not scored from the open run of play yet in this group stage. They will need to win tonight and get some help from that match between Martinique and Costa Rica. We will continue to keep you updated on the happenings there as this match unfolds. Just the second meeting ever in Gold Cup play between these two nations. Panama already through. Question for them is, will it be first or second place here in Group C? Guatemala, Jamaica, Mexico, the United States, Canada, Qatar, Panama. Those 7 nations are 7 of the 8 teams in the quarterfinal, which begins this weekend. Who will be the 8th team? We will find out together over the next 90 minutes. Underway now in Houston. El Salvador left to right in the white, Panama right to left in the red. Joe Malfa on hand for the action from Shell Energy Stadium in Houston, Texas. Panama runners-up in 2005 and 2013 in this tournament. They advanced out of the group in 8 straight tournaments from 2005 to 2019 before they were eliminated in the group stage in 2021. But we already know they are back through to the group stage. To the quarterfinal and out of the group stage. Question is, who will their opponent be come Saturday? It's Mexico if they're the group runners-up. It is Qatar if they're the group winners. Here's Barcenas to the back post. Falls in there for a shot that goes wide. Charging up from the right back position was Cesar Blackman. And should Panama win this group, Tomas Christensen's side would have a chance at revenge against Qatar. Back in 2021, a 3-3 draw in the opener against Qatar put Panama in a bad spot as the rest of group play unfolded, and they were sent packing. El Salvador, should they go through, they would meet Mexico in the next round. Be a very difficult pairing for a Salvadoran side that has never made it past the quarterfinal in this tournament. In their previous 12 appearances in the Gold Cup, 6 times eliminated in the group, 6 times eliminated in the quarterfinal. Miscommunication in the midfield for Panama. Harold Cummings comes away with the ball, but a foul is called against El Salvador. Only Los Angeles, Washington, D.C., and New York have greater Salvadoran populations than Houston, Texas. That's why you hear all of this support right now from this crowd and see all of that Salvadoran blue. It was clear during the national anthems, a very pro-Salvadoran crowd here. And Hugo Perez's side turn this into a result to send these fans home happy. Plenty of energy from the crowd to be feeding off of. In the opener against Martinique, El Salvador, a better team most of the night, but undone on a couple of counters. Over the top here to Gil, help from behind. Gil scores! El Salvador ahead! His first goal for his country. Sends this crowd into absolute raptures in Houston. Straight from Mario Gonzalez, a goalkeeper assist, direct over the top. Gil was being pulled from behind, no matter. Harold Cummings tried to stop him. There was nothing that would stop Gil. Calmly slotted past Mosquera. For the time being, this ties El Salvador on points with Martinique. though Martinique currently still sits in second place. Both nations have an even goal differential, but Martinique has scored 3 goals. El Salvador has scored 2. And that next tiebreaker after goal differential is goals scored. So if Martinique and Costa Rica play to a draw, it means this Salvadoran side needs to win by 2 goals or more. They already got the first. Can they get more? Over the top again. It's settled by Enriquez. Jairo Enriquez blocked, spinning toward the end line. Kept in play by Mosquera. Here you have it. Panama still 1, Martinique 2, El Salvador 3. Another goal from El Salvador would change that. They could not have dreamt a better start. An incredibly engaged crowd, frenzied from the moment this team walked out of the tunnel. And they gave them more reason to be excited. Enriquez doesn't angle that one enough toward the bodies in the box, upset with himself. How different the opening result against Martinique could have been. Earlier in that second half, Jairo Enriquez missed a penalty. And that missed penalty from Enriquez came at a time where they could have gone on for more. Menjivar trying to find his way around the edge, and a free kick on the way now for El Salvador once again. News from elsewhere, Costa Rica has just scored against Martinique. I'll let you know what that means for the group standings after this free kick, because you have to go well down the list of tiebreakers now. That's how tight things are here in Group C. Another goal from El Salvador, however, could change that. Free kick driven to the near post, punched away by Mosquera. Roldan keeps it alive, headed away by Escobar. Taken through. Oh, a nice play by Landaverde. But he's dispossessed by Gondola, and now a free kick coming for Panama. So what that Costa Rican goal does for the group standings, well, it forces the group standings to go all the way down to discipline points. That's how tight it is right now in Group C. On the turn, it's Perez giving it away. Now Miller. Gondola plays it ahead. Miller drives it across, the header! Just wide from Panama. Ismael Diaz had a chance to level it in the 10th minute. What a delivery from Miller. Corner for Panama. Barcenas will take it. And that is out of play for a goal kick. So right now, El Salvador is actually in second place in the group and through to the quarterfinal. Both Costa Rica and El Salvador have 4 points each, have 2 goals scored, have 2 goals allowed, and they tied head-to-head. Your order of tiebreakers, it's goal differential, goals scored, and then points in your head-to-head matchups. All of that is tied. It would go to discipline points, which factors in your yellow cards, your red cards. And right now, it's 4 yellows for Costa Rica, 1 yellow for Panama. So that is the perhaps least likely of the scenarios to have to dive into as the night goes along with still so much time remaining. If El Salvador and Costa Rica both win with the same exact score lines as we have right now, with El Salvador and Costa Rica both ahead 1-0, that's when it would go to discipline points. And El Salvador, as of now, on that note, would be through. Thomas Christensen, very animated. What all of this means for Panama right now is they can continue to relax. It would take a Panamanian loss and a Martinique victory in order to knock Panama off the perch atop Group C. So the news of Martinique going down is good for both Panama and El Salvador. Here's Dominguez. Cabalceta looking long for Gil. Again over the top. Gil brings it down. Mosquera has it, top of the box. Alex Roldan on that left side, starting his 3rd straight game in this group stage for El Salvador. Earns his 23rd cap tonight. Barcenas now back for Martinez. Giovanni Welch to Fidel Escobar. Now Cesar Blackman. Thought about a cross. Tucks it back for Escobar. He sends it in over the head of Diaz. It fell for Barcenas. Rather, Gondola. No trouble there for Mario Gonzalez. He did not start the opener, Gonzalez, but he started the 2nd match against Costa Rica and starts again tonight. Earns his 31st cap for El Salvador. And Gonzalez is down back behind the play. And that will get Tomas Romero, who started the opener, warming up. Quarter of an hour come and gone here in Houston. El Salvador 1, Panama nothing. Goal scored just 4 minutes in by Brian Gill. Turned 22 years old during the group stage here back on June 28th. The 22-year-old now earns his 6th cap for El Salvador, gets his first goal for his country. He's been playing professionally in Colombia since 2020. Since his move to Colombia, 18 goals in 99 games. Born in Colombia, represented Colombia at the U20 level, became a naturalized Salvadoran citizen and committed to play at the senior level for El Salvador with both of his brothers who are on the bench. Free kick for El Salvador. 2-4 for his shot. Awkwardly centrally located for delivery. Let's see what they have up their sleeve. Free kick sent in. Dealt with well by Panama. They look to break now the other way. Foul against El Salvador. Orellana commits it. More news from elsewhere. Martinique has just equalized against Costa Rica. So we're back to where we were a little while ago. Martinique in second, El Salvador in third. El Salvador would have to score again and win by 2 in order to bypass Martinique. Both teams level on 4 points each. But Martinique with the tiebreaker. Barcenas. Surprising to see Costa Rica down at the bottom of the heap. For so long, they've been one of the consistent teams in Concacaf. Over the top toward Gondola, snatched by Gonzalez. Barcenas floats one to the backside for Blackman. Gonzalez just got a hand to it. On the run, slapped it ahead to himself. Long way to get there, got it with the fingertips. Otherwise, Blackman had an open net. Here's Gondola, he's taken down. Orellana commits the foul. Second in rapid succession. This might be either a final warning or a yellow card. He just had a conversation with Walter Lopez moments ago after the last foul. They'll get away without the yellow, which again is important because if El Salvador and Costa Rica both win tonight with identical score lines, it would come down to discipline points. And right now it's 4 Costa Rican yellows to just 1 Salvadoran yellow. Quickly taken by Barcenas. Now over the top from Escobar. Set piece wasted by Panama. El Salvador has won at least 1 game in each group stage of 10 of their previous 12 Gold Cup appearances. Only twice in 12 tries did they ever go through the group without a victory. Haven't picked one up through 2 matches yet. Gil. Roldan. Orellana bypasses Landaverde, and it's trouble for Cabalceta. Has to knock it over on the bounce to Tamacas. On the turn, Enriquez taken down. Free kick coming for El Salvador. (2021) El Salvador lost to Qatar in the quarterfinal after coming in second in Group A behind Mexico. They beat Guatemala 2-1 and Trinidad and Tobago before a 1-0 loss against Mexico on the final day of group play. They put El Salvador in second, Mexico in first. A 3-2 loss to Qatar in the quarterfinal 2 years ago for El Salvador. Over the top from Perez. It'll be a goal kick. 3-2 finish is a little bit misleading from that quarterfinal 2 years ago. El Salvador and Qatar was a 3-0 Qatari lead before El Salvador brought 2 goals back late. They were denied their first ever trip to a semifinal. 12 tournaments, 6 eliminations in the group, 6 eliminations in the quarterfinal for El Salvador in their Gold Cup history. As it stands, they need 1 more goal right now just to get to another quarterfinal. And it would be as the runners-up of Group C on this coming Saturday against Mexico. Blackman through to Diaz. Good defensive play by Dominguez. Space for Gil. Gil continues, has support in the middle. Gil forced to the end line. He shields it out for a corner. It's his goal 4 minutes in that gave El Salvador the 1-0 lead. Jairo Enriquez will deliver. Swung in to the backside of the 6, just over the head of Eric Cabalceta. Both of these teams impressed at times in their Nations League endeavors. Panama more so, just slightly, than El Salvador. Panama was in League A Group B with Costa Rica and Martinique, who coincidentally became their group mates here in the Gold Cup again. And Panama in the Nations League, 3 wins and a draw to take home first place and make it to the semifinal. It's ahead to Waterman now at the end line. Ping-pongs around and out for a corner. Panama lost to Canada in the Nations League semifinal a couple of weeks ago before losing to Mexico in the 3rd place match. El Salvador finished 2nd in their group in Nations League with the United States and Grenada. They split with the United States, they had a win and a draw against Grenada. They lost on the road to the US and nearly had them beat at home before a late American equalizer turned it into a 1-1 draw. and they finished in second behind the U.S. Corner, swung in near the penalty spot, punched away by Gonzalez. Now Diaz, headed on and in! Fidel Escobar, amidst the confusion, levels the scoreline at 1. Earns his 70th cap tonight. Fidel Escobar, that's just his 3rd goal for Panama. So much confusion, middle of the box after Gonzalez came out so far. A volley into the ground as it deflected onto the head of Escobar. He is onside. He flicks it home with no keeper in the way. It was Roberto Dominguez who tried to save it off the line. Unable to do so. Over his head. Nestles in. 1-1. So, we're back to where we started this evening. Instead of 0-0 in both matches, it's 1-1 here. It's 1-1 between Costa Rica and Martinique. Same situation now as it was when we began the evening. Only difference, instead of 90 more minutes to be played, there are 63 more minutes to be played between the two matches. Giovanni Welch plays it back for Mosquera. Barcenas calling for it down this near sideline. But Mosquera goes short instead. Long again to Gill. Mosquera punches away, and Gill committed a foul, sending Harold Cummings to the ground. Panama top of the group, Martinique second. It would be Panama, Qatar this Saturday in Texas, over in Arlington. So it'd be minimal travel at least for Panama, get to stay within the state. Make the trip from Houston to Dallas. And it would be Martinique against Mexico. Escobar. Long for Ismael Diaz. Shielded off by Dominguez. Menjivar. Too far out in front of Joshua Perez. Nearly a half an hour into things here in Houston. El Salvador 1, Panama 1. Joe Malfa with you for the action from Shell Energy Stadium. Final window of group play in the 2023 Concacaf Gold Cup. Groups A and B met their conclusions on Sunday. Group D reached its finale earlier this evening. Now 2 simultaneous matches in Group C before we have a 3-day layoff and the quarterfinals begin on Saturday. Brian Gill in the 4th minute, Fidel Escobar in the 26th minute. Your goal scoring so far tonight. Lively crowd. Almost all in the favor of El Salvador. Houston, a major pocket for the Salvadoran population in the United States. Only 3 cities in the country have a stronger Salvadoran population than Houston. Los Angeles, Washington, D.C., and New York. Then it's Houston. They feel right at home tonight. This El Salvador side trying to harness the energy of this crowd into a victory that could propel them into the quarterfinal. But right now, Panama stands in the way, and then a tiebreaker with Martinique stands in the way. Cummings. Barcenas plays it through for Waterman. Cecilio Waterman back for Edgar Barcenas. Here's Waterman, made 2 appearances off the bench in the first 2 group matches. The 32-year-old earns his 29th cap tonight. Has 8 goals since he debuted back in 2010. That's over the line for a Salvadoran throw. If you're wondering why Waterman, at 32, having debuted in 2010, only has 29 caps. After he played in a World Cup qualifier in 2013, he did not see the field again for Panama for 6 years until a Nations League game in 2019. Long stint away from the national team before he was brought back into the fold. Such a good veteran who's playing well recently. Since he joined Cobresal in Chile, 33 starts, 17 goals over the last year. In impressive form coming into this Gold Cup. Cecilio Waterman. Cummings. Escobar and Blackman. Now it's Diaz. Ismael Diaz lost it. Long for Enriquez, sent away by Miller. And Landaverde taken down. Cabal set up for Tamacas. His pass is blocked into the path of Waterman now. Charging ahead with Diaz. And it's cut out in the midfield by Orellana. Just over 10 to play, plus stoppage time in half number 1. Landaverde for Orellana. Tamacas scored in the opener against Martinique from the penalty spot. A late goal that did not change the outcome on the evening. They were down 2-0. He scored on the last kick of the ball for the penalty spot. Then the final whistle blew off the ensuing kickoff. It didn't mean anything as far as the points on the evening. All 3 still belong to Martinique. But now that late goal looms large as far as the goal difference. Set piece on the way for El Salvador. Floated to the top of the box, headed away by Panama. Dominguez helped settle it now for Menjivar. Nudged off the ball by Welch. And he did so cleanly, but won back by El Salvador. Roldan to Landaverde. Tried to poke it back through for Roldan. Recovered by Dominguez. He's taken out harshly, and a card coming for Martinez. It's yellow. The way he came in from behind, for a moment there, I wasn't quite sure which color the card would be. A challenge that's certainly careless, but perhaps not reckless enough to elevate to a red card. You are putting it in the referee's hands anytime you come in from behind like that. Joshua Perez stands over it. It is a strike from distance that's just over the bar. Jairo Enriquez felt good about it. Wide and high in the end as it curled. Through to Waterman. Over the top for Perez. Joshua Perez looking for Brian Gill. Tried to hold his run and time it properly. Out for a corner. It was off a corner that Panama leveled the score line just over 10 minutes ago. Elsewhere, Costa Rica just scored to take a 2-1 lead. Perez swings it, back post, slapped away by Mosquera, taking it off the forehead of Eric Cabalceta. They'll do it again now from the far side, El Salvador. With that goal, Costa Rica would move into second place in the group. And it would be Martinique and El Salvador on the outside looking in. But that will change, or I should say could change very quickly again. A goal for El Salvador would put them back into second place. A goal for Martinique would put them back into second place. Whipped in near post, headed away by Escobar. The only team not worrying right now is Panama. Chance to break out here off the defensive set piece and turn it into a quick strike transitional attack. Diaz has support, continues his run. Ismael Diaz back post off the forehead of Barcenas. Tried to leap for it and keep it down, but got underneath it. That was Gondola, excuse me. Did his best. A lot on this pass from Diaz. Difficult one to keep down. But the goal was open. Pendulum shifts toward Costa Rica. And as I said, if Martinique draws level, they move back into second place. If El Salvador takes the lead here, it would be both Costa Rica and Martinique on the outside looking in with El Salvador through. If Martinique equalizes and El Salvador scores, then it would still be Martinique, and El Salvador would need to score one more in order to take back the goal difference. So many different scenarios that could play out throughout the evening with 50 minutes to play. 5 in this first half, 45 more in the next. Miller thought about going cross-field to Escobar. Cummings will do that now. Freddy Gondola. Jairo Enriquez sends it out to midfield. Recovered by Panama. It's Barcenas. Welch. Miller. Here's Gill. He lost it. Weaving through, it's Blackman. Gill comes back to win it. Brian Gill keeps his run going. Full head of steam. Brian Gill looks ahead to Perez. Heavy first touch, otherwise he could have been in the clear, and a clumsy foul. If his first touch is positive, or if it's a pass to a charging Gill, a chance this game is 2-1 El Salvador. At the end of that run, Gill went down. Waving off the trainers. Seems like he'll be able to get back to his feet on his own, hopefully. Panama controlling possession here in the late moments of this first half. Toller will be just one added minute. Perez, fronted by Miller. Waits for the support to arrive. Overlap coming from Enriquez to the end line. Enriquez drives it into the near post. Mosquera wasn't taking any chances. Might have been going out for a goal kick. Ismael Diaz. Christian Martinez. About 70 seconds remaining in this first half. As it stands, Costa Rica through in second place. They're ahead 2-1 on Martinique. Barcenas into Waterman. Deflected by Waterman in the path of Diaz. Sent away by Cabalceta, recovered by Barcenas. It's Barcenas slicing the whole way. Brian Gill went down a few moments ago, remember, in the 18. He's gone down again on his own. Last time they did not call for a stretcher. This time they called for the trainers. And it looked like they made the signal for the stretcher as well. He's holding his back. That's what he was holding when he went down a few moments ago. Good news for El Salvador is the halftime whistle is about to blow momentarily. So they don't have to rush a decision on a substitute. They can give him a chance to go in the locker room, receive treatment, and perhaps continue on. Right there, right side of your screen, he just sits down after that play concluded on his own. Back in the 4th minute, he did this to put El Salvador ahead 1-0. His first goal for El Salvador at the senior level. One last chance to go forward here for El Salvador. 2 minutes past the 1 minute given, and no need to take this free kick. There's that halftime whistle from Walter Lopez. It started strong for El Salvador, a goal 4 minutes in. A little over 20 minutes later, Fidel Escobar equalized, and it went from a positive first half for El Salvador to a negative one, as elsewhere Costa Rica took a lead on Martinique. Still 45 minutes of drama building in Group C of the 2023 Concacaf Gold Cup. More to come from Houston. A look at the first half stats, 6 shots to 3 in favor of Panama. They each get a goal at different junctures of that first half. Most of the possession goes Panama's way. Still 45 minutes to go in this one. We'll keep you updated on the happenings between Costa Rica and Martinique as well. Coming down to the wire in Group C. Highlights from this first half between Panama and El Salvador. Early on, it was Panama seemingly on the front foot. A couple of opportunities in the first couple of minutes, led by this one. Blackman on the far post on the delivery from Barcenas. Put it wide off the ensuing goal kick. A short pass, then played back to Gonzalez. Root one over the top. Brian Gill latches on. He's being dragged from behind by Cummings. Doesn't matter. Powers through, slots it home. 1-0 El Salvador in front of a frenzied crowd here in Houston. That's his first international goal, earning his 6th cap tonight, Gill. Pendulum then shifted in Panama's favor. There were no more opportunities to score in the first half for El Salvador. For Panama, they started flowing. Diaz headed it wide. Strong delivery from Roderick Miller. Then from the corner, slapped away by Gonzalez, volleyed back in by Diaz, and flicked home with the forehead by Fidel Escobar. As Gonzalez came out, everything sort of became undone. A lot of chaos in the box. Saw Dominguez step back onto the goal line to try and act as the de facto keeper, but nothing he could do. Jairo Enriquez tried a free kick from distance. It was a few yards wide and a couple of yards high. At that point it was 1-1, and Panama really started to press forward with more chances. Ismael Diaz beat two defenders, but his cross left more to be desired. Too much on it for Freddy Gondola. A softer ball across. Gondola had an open goal. Could have been 2-1. Instead, it's still 1-1 through 45. Ready to begin half number 2 between Panama and El Salvador. 45 dramatic minutes on the way to determine which nation goes through as the second place team in Group C. El Salvador right to left in the white, Panama left to right in the red, and we're underway in the second 45 here in Houston. Subs to get you from the break. Both teams making some changes. Andres Andrade and Alberto Carrasquilla both in for Panama. Harold Cummings, Christian Martinez off. And it's Christian Martinez on for Joshua Perez on the El Salvador side. Long toward Enriquez. Thomas Christensen has to feel good about where his Panamanian side lies right now. It would take a goal from El Salvador and 2 goals from Martinique to knock Panama out of first place in this group. Seem to be on their way to squaring off against Qatar in the quarterfinal this Saturday. And Damacas in some pain after that last challenge. Back to the action now, Gonzalez with it. Cabal set up for Dominguez. Under some pressure now, Roldan gets it up the sideline, keeps it in, but gives it away centrally to Carrasquilla. Coco Carrasquilla continues his run, shakes off the defender, back toward Carrasquilla and cleared. Foul against Panama in the end, and the yellow card to Carrasquilla. Just came on at the half, and now in the book. And remember, on the El Salvador side, there are no yellow cards issued at the moment, and they'd like for it to stay that way because one of the scenarios looming large over this second half, if El Salvador and Costa Rica both win tonight with identical score lines, it would come down to discipline points. Coming into the night, Costa Rica had 4 yellows, El Salvador with just 1. And El Salvador has added to that yellow card total. Pardon me, Costa Rica has added to that yellow card total tonight. Kendall Waston picked one up in the 43rd minute. So currently 5-1 in yellow cards. Costa Rica over El Salvador. That again only if El Salvador and Costa Rica both win with identical score lines tonight. As it stands, Costa Rica is through on 4 points. El Salvador on 2. Martinique on 3. Carrasquilla just picked up his yellow moments ago. And he wants Walter Lopez to issue one here the other way. Has to be careful he doesn't pick up a red of his own here on a second yellow. Forcing his way through, it's Roderick Miller. Now Barcenas delivers, Miller's header is wide. Rolled on. Gill charging ahead, forcing Miller to clear it. Good to see Gill back out there. Remember, he was down at the end of the first half. Here's Gondola. Takes it out of play. Throw for El Salvador. Gill. Orellana. Jairo Enriquez. Defended well by Blackman. Cesar Blackman all over Enriquez. Wins it cleanly. Well done by Cesar Blackman. Now Ismael Diaz turns it back. Orellana. Here's Carrasquilla. Looking over the top. Makes its way out to Diaz. Off a poor clearance attempt by Cabalceta. Diaz weaves in. Barcenas. Carrasquilla opens up looking for Blackman. Here is Cesar Blackman. Cuts toward the end line. Blackman centers it, headed away. Bad news for El Salvador. Costa Rica has scored again. More on that in a second. It's through the hands of Gonzalez and out for a corner. So with Costa Rica up 3-1 now on Martinique, it is starting to look bleak for El Salvador. Now, at the very least, El Salvador would have to win this game 3-1. El Salvador has to take care of business, find a goal or two of their own, and then root for Martinique to pull a goal or two back. That's how things stand. From the corner, mishandled by the keeper. And then headed wide by Giovanni Welch. Back-to-back plays where Mario Gonzalez mishandled it. The ball over the top initially went through his hands, so it went out for a corner. This would have been offside at the last there. The header for Panama went wide, but in an offside position. So they would have gotten away with the mistake, El Salvador. Gonzalez was down on the ground after the ball initially went through his hands, walking gingerly here. You wonder if he's 100%. See those back-to-back plays turn out the way they did. A typically sure-handed, strong keeper. In his previous 31 caps for El Salvador, only 30 goals allowed. That's a sub-1 goals against average with 14 clean sheets. Poked ahead for Brian Tamacas. Has support. Tamacas end line wins a corner. You wonder how quickly word of Costa Rica's situation circles the benches of El Salvador. If there's no change to the scoreline between Costa Rica and Martinique, it means El Salvador needs to score twice in this second half. Outswinger, far post. Cabalceta couldn't get there. Mosquera able to keep it out. Otherwise, another corner would have been conceded. Ten minutes gone here in this second half. No change to our scoreline in Houston. From Shell Energy Stadium, Joe Malfa with you for the conclusion of Group C, the 2023 Concacaf Gold Cup. Well, we've had no changes here. We had a change in Harrison, New Jersey. Costa Rica turned a 2-1 lead into a 3-1 lead. Ismael Diaz pushes ahead for Panama, has Blackman up the right side. Cesar Blackman wins a corner for Panama. End to end, the first 10 minutes of this second half. Both teams with opportunities from corners and set pieces. Barcenas now wearing the captain's armband after coming subbed off at half. Delivers the corner, outswinger top of the six, headed away, but right back out toward Barcenas, who shields it for another corner. Barcenas goes short with it on the turn now. It's Gondola. And matters have gotten even worse now for El Salvador. Costa Rica has taken a 4-1 lead over Martinique. El Salvador would now have to score 3 times in this second half or get some help from Martinique with a couple of goals of their own. It's looking increasingly likely that it will be Panama through in first, Costa Rica through in second. Panama taking on Qatar on Saturday, and Costa Rica taking on Mexico. What a matchup that would be, Costa Rica and Mexico in the quarters. Here's Brian Gill to help El Salvador's case. The curler just wide. Coming into this tournament, and granted, there was heavy roster rotation for the US, Mexico, and Canada from what we saw in the Nations League. But how many would have maybe thought, as it slipped through here, another chance for Panama. Gonzalez clears, but off of Waterman, keeps it alive. How many would have thought that Costa Rica, Mexico, US, Canada might have been a semifinal with those 4 teams, the last 4 standing? Instead, could be paired up in the quarters with the US taking on Canada, already set in stone, and now perhaps looking like Costa Rica, Mexico will be a matchup as well. Matchups we thought we'd see later in this tournament, coming right out of the gates in the quarterfinal as the knockout phase begins this coming weekend. Gill chests it down to Landaverde. Now Mosquera. Roderick Miller to Coco Carrasquilla. Orellana called for the foul. Ismael Diaz. Coco Carrasquilla. It's 4 different goal scorers tonight for Costa Rica, and their 4-1 lead right now over Martinique. Kendall Waston, and Pablo Vargas, Joel Campbell, and an own goal. Now they've tallied their 4. Sent in by Blackman, punched away by Gonzalez. And a foul called against Panama. Past the hour mark now. Seems Costa Rica has taken all of the drama out of what could have been a wild second half. Now a 4-1 lead over Martinique means that El Salvador would have to score 3 more times in this game, or they would need some help along the way from Martinique. No clear road ahead for these two nations, El Salvador and Panama, beyond the Gold Cup as far as any matches on the schedule. They are both going through Nations League. Ahead to Gil, off his shoulder. Gil to the end line, unable to save it. But these two nations, Panama and El Salvador, grouped together in the newly formatted Concacaf Nations League with play beginning in September. Blackman. Carrasquilla for Andrade. Along to Escobar. His goal made it 1-1 back in the 26th minute. Roderick Miller for Coco Carrasquilla, and back again. Miller's had a superb match tonight, both defensively and joining the attack from his left center back position in this 3-5-2, or pardon me, this 3-4-3 that Thomas Christensen is running. It was a 3-5-2 in their opener against Costa Rica, and what was a tactical chess match. Over the top now and cleared. But it has morphed into a 3-4-3 over the last 2 matches. Welch. Back. Andrade forward to Carrasquilla. Panama not showing any urgency in this second half because they don't really need to. From distance, blocked. Welch for Blackman. Threaded back through to Welch. Landaverde can bring it clear. Gil for Tamacas. Pardon me, Enriquez up the right side. As much as the score between Costa Rica and Martinique impacts El Salvador, and has certainly made its way around the benches of El Salvador. Probably made its way around the benches for Panama as well. Martinique was the only team that could catch Panama for first place in this group. Trailing 4-1 against Costa Rica. Panama now seemingly easily through as the winners of this group, regardless of what this final score turns out to be. So they have afforded themselves that luxury of being able to ease back on the throttle and keep some left in the tank on this quick turnaround to play Saturday against Qatar in Dallas, Texas. Harold Osorio, Meyer Gill getting ready to check in for El Salvador. And Cesar Yanis readying to enter for Panama. Menjivar gives it away. Carrasquilla looks ahead. Waterman was starting to run. Carrasquilla tried from midfield, and it was blocked by Orellana. Tamacas looking through for Gill. You can just about put this group on ice. Costa Rica has scored again, up 5-1 on Martinique. Cutting in, Barcenas puts it wide. El Salvador would have to score 4 times down the stretch here, or hope they get some more help from Martinique. But with Costa Rica up 5-1, the drama has been sucked out of this second half. Panama will go through as the top team in the group with Costa Rica in second. Meyer Gill comes on for Leo Menjivar. Osorio replaces Landaverde. And it's Freddy Gondola coming off for Cesar Yanis. Look at the table now. Seems very clear-cut. What an effort from Costa Rica. The offensive explosion that they needed after struggling offensively against Panama in the group opener. Did not find too many opportunities. Only made it 2-1 on a late goal. Otherwise, that was a 2-0 defeat that evening. Then in their second match, a scoreless draw against this Salvadoran side. But an outburst of 5 goals tonight, and counting perhaps, for Costa Rica. And it was yet another different goal scorer. Contreras gets on the board for Costa Rica. 4 goal scorers plus an own goal. Carrasquilla opens up wide for Blackman. Still for El Salvador, you'd like to send this crowd home happy with a victory. Yanis slips it through to Waterman. Back out for Blackman. Cesar Blackman rolls it top of the box. Now Waterman goes down. Still has the ball at his feet. And finally cleared by El Salvador. Miller. El Salvador is unable to come away with the victory. Just to showcase how unusual this would be. This is their 13th Gold Cup. In 10 of the previous 12, they've won at least 1 game. This will only be the 3rd time in a Gold Cup setting in which they failed to register a victory. Blackman on the ground. Waterman scores! Pardon me, it's Diaz! Ismael Diaz makes it 2-1 Panama. His 6th goal in his 27th cap for Panama. And the clear-cut group winners might be on the way to a perfect 9 points. Blackman just found Diaz. Nobody went with him. Crisp delivery from Blackman. And a simple finish for Diaz. It started so well for El Salvador tonight, scoring 4 minutes in to take a 1-0 lead. Enriquez ahead for Gil, cuts back, Gil saved by Mosquera. On a night that started so positively, it's starting to just look like it's not El Salvador's night. Opportunities like this, in which they didn't cash in. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Costa Rica has cashed in to the tune of 5 goals against Martinique. There were multiple instances tonight for El Salvador as it sent in toward Cabalceta and cleared away. There were multiple moments throughout this evening where they were the team in 2nd place, bypassing Martinique, bypassing Costa Rica. But as the dust begins to settle, it will not be El Salvador through, it appears. Martinique brought one back against Costa Rica. But now El Salvador will need to score 3 times. Enriquez. What a masterful showing this has been for Panama in this group phase. Martinique perceived as one of the wild cards of this tournament. With their dual nationals and the talent they possess, they showed it in the opener, beating El Salvador. Panama took care of them. Against Costa Rica, the highest ranked team in this group, Panama won 2-1. And tonight again, it's that familiar 2-1 scoreline. If this remains the same, all 3 wins for Panama would come 2-1. Eduardo Anderson replaces Edgar Barcenas. El Salvador as in trying to transform the way this national team looks under the tutelage of Hugo Perez. So much positive has come from his tenure. He's brought in so many new players who are dual nationals and have given this team a young core going forward. Not the strongest of showings in World Cup qualifying. Not bad in Concacaf Nations League, falling to the U.S. on the road, beating Grenada at home, then drawing Grenada on the road, and tying the U.S. 1-1 at home. Finished with a win, 2 draws, and a loss. Second place to the U.S. in Nations League. Now in the next edition of Nations League that begins in September, El Salvador will be grouped in with Martinique, Curacao, Trinidad and Tobago, Guatemala, and this Panamanian side. It will share League A, Group A. Rolled ahead to Waterman to the far post, but wide. So that's what's next for El Salvador. What's next for Panama? A quarterfinal this Saturday against Qatar. Enriquez making his way off. Nelson Blanco takes his place. "31st meeting between these nations tonight. Panama about to win its 16th game, perhaps, should they hold on to this. Just to 8 wins of El Salvador with 7 draws. It's been a one-sided rivalry ever since 2004. Since 2004, Panama, 11 wins, 2 losses, 4 draws against El Salvador. Carrasquilla. Andrade back for Carrasquilla, who plays his club ball in this stadium. Coco Carrasquilla with the Houston Dynamo. Cesar Blackman gave it a run and puts the pressure on. Dominguez concedes the corner. Well, don't say this is over just yet, perhaps. Martinique has just scored again. It's now 5-3 Costa Rica. Just when everything seemed done and dusted. Goals 4 minutes apart for Martinique. El Salvador, as it stands, would still have to score 3 times at least. From the corner, off the bar. Panama is looking for more to seal away what would be a 3rd victory in the group stage. And they didn't miss the 3rd goal by much, off the crossbar from Waterman. Panama faced Qatar in the group stage 2 years ago. That's who they would face in the quarterfinal. It was a thrilling 3-3 draw between Panama and Qatar. I can almost assure you that it will not finish 3-3 between Panama and Qatar this time around this Saturday. Qatar now coached by Carlos Queiroz with a distinctly defensive style of play. And this Panamanian side, which was more free-flowing 2 years ago, has also tightened things up immensely defensively. Qatar coming off a performance in which they allowed 26 shots, 17 on target to Mexico. Meanwhile, they only had 1 shot, 1 on target of their own, and they won by a 1-0 scoreline. And it was similar in the previous match for Qatar against Honduras. Only a couple of shots, they scored once, held on to a 1-0 lead for 80 minutes until Honduras equalized late. And then in the opener for Qatar as well, it was 1-1 for so long against Haiti before Haiti scored 90+7. I expect a very tight game between Panama and Qatar this weekend. Mexico and Costa Rica will follow this weekend on Saturday, both in Dallas. And that is 2 of the top 4 ranked teams in CONCACAF. The rosters look a little bit different now for Mexico and Costa Rica than they did when both nations were at the World Cup just 8 months ago. But that is still a matchup you'll want to tune in for this weekend. Sunday's matchups are set. Jamaica, Guatemala, US, Canada. We can almost say Saturday's matchups are set as well. This is what you don't want to see if you're Panama. With the group salted away, seeing a player go down. Panama had advanced out of the group in 8 straight tournaments from 2005 to 2019 before they were eliminated in the group phase of 2021. Fortunately for them, it appears that was a one-off, and they are back to the quarterfinal again. We already knew that coming into the night. They clinched after their second group match, but now we know they'll be going through as the first-place team, hoping to make it further than they ever have in this tournament. And the only way they can do that, Panama, is by winning the whole thing. They've twice made the final, 2005, 2013. They fell on both occasions. During that stretch of 8 straight knockout phases made by Panama, they made 2 finals, they made 2 semifinals, and they were eliminated 4 times in the quarterfinal. All the way back from Mosquera. Panama is ready to celebrate a group victory. Just 7 minutes plus stoppage time away from that. Roderick Miller is trying to be waved back onto the field. Hasn't gotten the referee's attention just quite yet. Now he is back out there. Cabalceta for Tamacas. Some final changes for both of these teams. Azarias Londoño is on his way in. Brian Gill exits on El Salvador's side for Christian Gill, his brother. And Brian Gill, regardless of the final outcome tonight, has himself a night to remember. 4 minutes in front of a very pro-El Salvador crowd. Notches his first international goal in his 6th appearance for his country. And it's Londoño coming on for Roderick Miller on the other side. Tempers flaring here in the late stages. Walter Lopez coming in to keep the peace. Started with this challenge from Orellana. It's a dangerous tackle from behind, scissoring motion. Picks up a yellow, and he's still down in pain in the aftermath for a foul he committed. Just 5 minutes to play plus stoppage time here in Houston. Joe Malfa with you from Shell Energy Stadium. The Group C finale between Panama and El Salvador. Panama seemingly on its way to a third consecutive 2-1 victory to be perfect in the group and take 9 of a possible 9 points. Meanwhile, El Salvador, for just the third time in their 13 Gold Cup appearances, might exit without winning a single match. On their way to potentially 2 losses and a draw. And even if they don't mount a comeback here, it's Costa Rica up 5-3 on Martinique. That would prevent El Salvador from going through anyway. If you're Panama, you just want to get out of here healthy and without any additional cards, as tempers are beginning to flare. And perhaps that's why Thomas Christensen is calling a handful of his players over, just to relay that message. No need to do anything foolish or rash at this juncture. No matter what happens, even if you go on to lose this game 3-2 on a pair of late Salvadoran goals, you're still winning the group if you're Panama. Has to be the message being communicated now. Players still down for Panama. Right along that sideline. After an exchange with Meyer Gill, who's over trying to help up the opposing player. It's a celebration for the Panamanian fans in attendance. Dwarfed in terms of the numbers by the Salvadoran fans. But the party belongs to the Panamanian fans tonight, and it also belongs to the Costa Rican fans over in Harrison, New Jersey at Red Bull Arena. They added another. It is 6-3 Costa Rica. And if you're Mexico, seeing that result, coming off of your own loss against Qatar, look out. Costa Rica seemingly figured something out tonight against what has proven to be a very solid Martinique side. 2-1 win over El Salvador, 2-1 loss, in which they more than held their own against Panama. 90th minute. Seems like we'll have a lot of stoppage time on the back end of this. Yellow card issued to the assistant coach. It's Blackman who's still being helped to the bench. They've used all of their subs, Panama, so they'll finish this game down a man if Blackman can't continue. It's exactly what you didn't want to see happen. Anybody go down with an injury or a silly card, that would cost them the quarterfinal on Saturday. Just hope everything's all right now with Cesar Blackman. This was his first start of the group stage, had one previous appearance off the bench. The typical first choice starter on that right side is Michael Murillo, who did score in the last game. Arguably the most important and best player in this Panamanian side, Murillo. Floated centrally, and there's one back for El Salvador. It's level in the 90th minute. Meyer Gill races it back to midfield. It might not mean much as far as getting through, but you can bet these Salvadoran fans want to see their side win tonight. Meyer Gill, his first goal in his 7th cap. What a special night this is. Meyer Gill gets his first goal. Brian Gill gets his first goal. And it's 2-2. Haven't received official word yet on stoppage time. El Salvador pushing ahead. Roldan has an overlap from Tamacas. Roldan centers. It falls for Gill. Goal kick. Martinique scored to make it 6-4 in a wild game in New Jersey. El Salvador would still have to score 3 times here to surpass Costa Rica. Either that or they'd have to score 2 of their own and get a goal back from Martinique. Any combination of 3 goals in El Salvador's favor. In the dying embers of this one and the match in Jersey between Costa Rica and Martinique. At least a glimmer of hope. Roldan. Still Alex Roldan. Corner for El Salvador. Nelson Blanco will deliver the corner. We're 6 minutes tacked on to the end of this. Final whistle is blown in Jersey. Costa Rica 6, Martinique 4. So as it stands, El Salvador would have to score now 3 goals in order to get through over Costa Rica. They would have to win this 5-2 to get through. A lot of battling going on in the box, and finally yellow cards issued to Londoño and Tamacas. It's been about a minute since this ball went out of play. In-swinger near post, flicked on header by Roldan. El Salvador does not want to leave this tournament without at least 1 victory, even if they still don't go through. Dominguez brought down, immediately waved off by Walter Lopez, who had a good vantage point. And it is out for a corner kick. In-swinger, top of the 6, slapped away by Mosquera. Charging ahead, Ismael Diaz. Meyer Gill keeps it in for El Salvador. His goal made it 2-2. He starts this attack. Floated by Dominguez. Loose in front still before it's cleared by Escobar. barring a miracle, El Salvador is going home at the end of the night. They would need to score 3 goals in this final minute of stoppage time. But that is not going to stop them from wanting to send this crowd of over 20,000 home happy, vociferously showing their support tonight. Into the path of Londoño. Panama is just keen to keep this in the corner and let the time expire. There's your final whistle. A 2-2 draw tonight between Panama and El Salvador. El Salvador will head home eliminated in this group stage. Panama is your Group C winner in the 2023 Concacaf Gold Cup. They will take on Qatar on Saturday, and it's Costa Rica taking on Mexico in your last quarterfinal spot. A dramatic night on the final day of group play in the Gold Cup is complete. It finishes 2-2 between Panama and El Salvador. A 3-day break. Quarterfinals begin on Saturday.